How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from West 1000. Today is November 23rd, 2020, and today we're going to primarily focus on the potential nor'easter that could happen entering the month of December, as well as the snowstorm that's expected to impact the Great Lakes. So let's first start with the nor'easter, probably the biggest topic you guys want to hear from, since a nor'easter definitely could potentially bring major impact. So here, as you can see in the GFS model going 168 hours out, we see a pretty strong low pressure system. It isn't insanely strong. We have definitely seen stronger nor'easters in past winters before. However, it's still decently strong, dropping down to 994 millibars, and that could be equivalent to a category 1 hurricane when you see a low pressure system going down to 994 millibars. Obviously, it won't bring as much impacts as hurricanes, because the one of the main reasons why the pressure is so low is because a lot of the air is spaced out, so you won't get as much strong wind, of strong winds you will get in one area like with a hurricane. However, the winds will be spread out and would make it a longer duration event, and it's still a pretty powerful storm that could bring gusty winds and strong waves along the coast. So it's a disclaimer here that this is 174 hours out, and you might be wondering, why am I going so far out with the forecast when this might not even happen? And you're right. However, I just want to point out that both the GFS and the European model seem to be leaning towards a pattern that will encourage more low pressure systems to move up the East Coast and potentially create more nor'easters in the future. Let's go within the forecast window of 120 hours. We see the GFS and the European model agreeing that there will be some sort of convection that will build up here within the 120 hour to 144 hour mark, which is around 5 to 6 days from now. As you can see, the European begins to build a low pressure system at right around southeastern Texas, and it's as a result of this dip. There's gonna be a dip in the jet stream where an Alberta Clipper is gonna move through the Midwest, and there's gonna be a lingering low pressure system that's going to move down and sort of absorb some of that cold air that's from northern Canada, and it'll come far south enough to the point where it'll interact with some of the much warmer and humider air that's currently located over the southeast and all throughout the Gulf of Mexico. And since this low pressure system has the Gulf to feed off of, the very warm Gulf of Mexico, it's definitely gonna strengthen and form as it moves towards the east. However, there seems to be differences in the models. The European is leaning towards making this storm weaker, and it's because the European isn't very lenient on bringing a very strong southward dip in the jet stream that would bring the cold air to the south like the GFS is, because in the European you see the blues are mostly still in Canada. However, when you compare it to the GFS model, the blue colors, which represent colder air and lower geopotential height, you see that the cold air is much further south, to the point where the GFS is more lenient on strengthening this. As you can see, it drops it down to 994 millibars just off the coast, just off the East Coast. So there's still a lot of time. I won't make any assumptions just now. I just want to point out that there's going to be a dip in the jet stream, and the potential of a low pressure system, any sort of low pressure system, whether it's strong, whether it's weak, there seems to be agreement that there's going to be some sort of low pressure system or storm system that will form in southeast Texas that could potentially be strong if it gets enough instability and cold air and just enough of a jet stream dip to interact with this warm air. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So what will determine how far south that jet stream dips Well, one thing we could look at is the Arctic oscillation, and if you guys don't know what this is pretty much an oscillation where it determines the sort of the trajectory and the path of where storm systems will go in the northern hemisphere. Because when the Arctic oscillation is positive, this means that the high pressure that's located in the Atlantic and the low pressure that's constant in the Atlantic during the winter are much stronger than usual. And since the low pressure and since the stronger low pressure system and the stronger high pressure system interact more, it creates stronger winds, and since the Coriolis effect diverts the winds all the way to the east, obviously the winds will move towards the east, which is the westerlies. And since the westerly winds are stronger during a positive Arctic oscillation, it's less likely that cold air will dip as much, since it's less likely that cold air would meander towards the south when there's winds so strong and westerly winds so strong in the lower levels and in the higher levels of the atmosphere. And there's less likely to be major dips, since there isn't any major high pressure systems or an area much warmer than another place to bring to sort of steer the jet stream trajectory down. However, when it's negative, that jet stream is more likely to dip with a weaker low pressure system in the Atlantic and the weaker high pressure system in the Atlantic, and it's more likely to meander southward, and the jet stream goes all over the place in that scenario. And that usually means that the jet stream is far more likely to dip down. However, as you can see, we're in the positive phase, which pretty much means that the jet stream for the most part is well up north of most of the US. There isn't a big jet stream dip, and it shows, because for a lot of the US during November, you see during the month of November, we mainly been getting a positive phase, and the positive phase has led to just a much warmer than average November for a lot of you guys. In fact, the snow depth year to date for November 23rd, 2020 is the lowest since 2012. So it goes to show how much of an effect a positive Arctic oscillation could do, and also a La Nina. I won't entirely dismiss that fact either. However, positive Arctic oscillation definitely does have a huge effect in what type of pattern you'll see over the next several weeks. So why I bring this up is because a negative Arctic oscillation would mean it's more likely that this jet stream dips more, and then we will see stronger low pressure systems go through the northeast, and potentially more and stronger nor'easters. So as of right now, obviously it's positive. However, the forecast is leaning more towards losing that positive Arctic oscillation over the next several weeks. Again, it's for the most part, it's still in the positive phase. However, there seems like it's going to be a downward trend in the Arctic oscillation. And again, these are just forecasts. A lot could change, and definitely it's very variable where this could go. However, for the most part, I think there's pretty much good agreement that there will be a downward trend in this line graph, to the point where it could borderline be a negative Arctic oscillation, which would mean that it's more likely we see jet stream dips in the US over the next several weeks that will encourage stronger storms and stronger nor'easters. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. However, the line graph, fortunately or unfortunately, if you potentially like the snow, isn't going all the way down, so it won't really be, it's unlikely that we're going to see some major nor'easter or some major snowstorm. However, again, I'm predicting a lot of this over 5 days out, so a lot could change. That's all I'm gonna say. However, I just want to point out a low pressure is likely to form, and the jet stream dip, and what determines the jet stream dip is the Arctic oscillation, which we need to keep an eye out on for the next several days, and just keep aware of this potential northeastern pattern all throughout the East Coast, where we could see much stronger low pressure systems than we've been seeing now, and also more dips in the jet stream, which mean more colder winter-like temperatures that a lot of the U.S. has been missing for most of the year. So I just wanted to point that out, that there could be a pattern change going into December and more northeasters along the East Coast. So that's it for the long-term future and the pattern change for the potential pattern change that could affect the entire U.S. Now let's look at stuff that's more in the near future, very near future, I should say, by looking at the radar. So you see, for the most part, it's fairly quiet in the U.S. You don't see anything really major throughout the U.S. You see a little bit of rain and this low pressure finally starting to leave the Northeast, bringing a pretty hefty amount of snow through Maine. But for the most part, most of the U.S. from this low pressure system, as expected from my forecast yesterday, didn't really dump much snow throughout the United States, which might be good, might be bad for those who like snow, I don't know. And other than that, it's mostly quiet, but obviously the elephant in the room is this rain/snow band, which is currently pretty much currently around the Mississippi River Valley. It's bringing some rain to Springfield, and we're seeing some snow just south of Des Moines, Iowa, and we're seeing this rain band form just above Missouri, and this is as a result of smaller low pressure systems beginning to encounter some instability, because on the backside of this low pressure system today in my area in New Jersey, it brought very strong winds, very strong northwest winds, and it brought a lot of that cold Arctic Canada air further southward. And now this small low pressure system is beginning to feel that colder air, and since obviously that low pressure system has a lot of latent heat within it, it's forced to rise as the denser air attempts to fill in, and as it rises, it has a lot of water vapor, so it condenses, and then it created this rain/snow band all throughout the Mississippi River Valley, and this is expected to continue to expand as the low pressure system continues to move more and more towards the east as it encounters more of that warm air and interacts with it to the point where we're going to see more convection and instability. Again, it won't be a lot of instability. This storm, for the most part, will primarily be weak and will not bring much impacts to the United States. However, one of the main threats will be severe weather with this, as I'll show you on the GFS radar, forecast radar, where you see that band. The GFS is mainly accurate of where that rain and snow band formed. However, this convection will continue to expand as the low pressure system moves more east, and we begin to see snow in the Rocky Mountains, some snow in the Great Lakes region. However, if you watch yesterday's forecast, the GFS is now bringing a lot less snow than it was in the last run yesterday, where now the GFS is leaning more towards a rain event, and I've noticed that the GFS is also bringing a much weaker storm into the Midwest, and I think it's the result of the GFS not really detecting much instability as behind it, or much cold air behind it to really strengthen this, to give it that power to really bring much snow. And also there isn't that much cold air either to be just cold enough to where it'll bring much accumulating snowfall, or at least as much as yesterday. So the GFS model has lowered its snowfall forecast from 3 to 5 inches of snow yesterday to more 1 to 3 in a lot more isolated areas. So this won't be much of a major snow threat for you guys as anticipated, since there isn't as much instability. However, it's still something to watch since 1 to 3 inches of snow, while it's late, it's I'm sure a lot of you guys are Thanksgiving traveling, so you definitely still want to keep in mind of that, and just bring the salt just in case, and make sure to drive extra slow on those roads if they're covered in snow and it's accumulating. So it won't be anything major, and it'll be relatively weak since there just isn't going to be a lot of instability behind it. And yeah, so just prepare along the Midwest. And if we take a look at the forecasted accumulating snowfall, if 1 inch of rain equates to 10 inches of snow, you see that for the most part the GFS is around 1 to 3 inches. I would say you may get 3 inches if you're lucky in certain areas. However, for the most part, it won't be anything really major in the Midwest. So, but however, it's still something to keep in mind. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, or a good afternoon whenever you guys are watching this. And so thank you for watching.